You are looking at the web page that we will be using to do our assignment this week. Our assignment this week is on effects and animations. And when I load this web page, you will notice that this heading is animated. So let me reload. So we see this little animation coming in. What we're doing, we're animating the font size and the margin left. So we're setting the font size property to something larger and moving it a little bit away from the left margin using the animate method. Now remember that the animate method allows us to animate CSS properties that have a numeric value. So you can't animate things like color and thickness, like font weight, boldness, and things like that. Now, when we use the names of these properties, we use them in the JavaScript language, not CSS language. So font size would not be FONT-SIZE. It would be FONT capital SIZE, one word. And that is in the book and in the my presentation. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to look at this login. A little hover here. And actually, I think this is just a CSS hover. And notice the plus sign. When I click, there's my login. Notice it's sliding down. When I click again, it's sliding up. This is the slide toggle method. This is part of what is called the effects. Now, notice that this form overlaps the content underneath it. How that is accomplished, and I have all this information here for you if you're not familiar with it, is by using positioning. The only way that one thing can overlap something else is with positioning. So this outside blue container has a relative position, position colon relative. My form here has position colon absolute, so I can position it absolutely to this relative container. Now, another thing that we're going to do, we're going to use the focus event when the user clicks into a form element, and the blur event when the user clicks out. So when the user clicks in, we're adding a class. When the user clicks out, we're removing that class, but technically we're going to add it somewhere else because they clicked out of there. Now, if I clicked on there, it doesn't matter because I didn't click into an element. So focus, and when you click off, it's blur. Also, a little hover. This is the hover event. Get a little bit more experience on using this. And we're manipulating our minus and plus by changing the, toggling the background class, toggling the class that has the background image like we did last time. All right, so we're also going to learn, and here we are, click for this week's agenda. We're going to learn how to use the fade toggle. So this is slide toggle, meaning it's up and down. This is fade toggle. Now notice, if you recall, we could have used either of these for our FAQ. All right. Now notice the difference between these two. The way that I have fade toggle, fade slide, it's positioning, it's going over. Here, my page is going to jump. All right. When we're adding content and removing content, the page underneath those buttons are going to jump up and down. All right. So there's no positioning down here. I'm just explaining to you how these things work. All right, so when we click, we fade toggle what's underneath it. When we click again, we fade toggle it. And what we're doing is we're essentially hiding and showing with a fade effect. And up here, we're hiding and showing with a slide effect. So these are, the fade and the slide are very similar to hide and show. They essentially are manipulating the CSS display property with a little added effect. All right, the next thing we're doing is we have a little animation on our buttons. When I hover over using the hover method, I move it up by manipulating the bottom position, and I fade it. All right, now notice there's not a big fade, but there's a little fade there. All right, so here we are up and here we are down. Now we're manipulating the bottom position, all right, which means that we're working with positioning. And one problem that you could encounter is that you just can't call an effect without some kind of a positioning already been set for that object. So that these objects already have to have a relative positioning in order for us, using CSS, in order for us to manipulate some kind of position. So this is how you move things around. And you will notice that in the sample code, they can jump a little. There is a stop method used which stops the animation from getting a little too jittery, so to speak. So in other words, after it animates and we do it again, first it stops the existing animation before we run the animation again. So, and we'll be talking about that in our lecture. Okay, so this is the assignment for this week, and I tend to think you'll enjoy it.